Hey guys, what's up and welcome back sa Filipino Millennial Mindset Podcast, a podcast dedicated to sharing lessons, conversations, and experiences in hopes na ma-broaden yung mindset ng millennials and hopefully other generations. So today, I have Rajiv with me. Tama ba? Pronunciation ko?
Yes.
Rajiv?
Correct.
Rajiv?
Correct.
Rajiv.
Rajiv.
Alright. So, Rajiv has the Rajiv Show, yung podcast niya. So, feel free to follow and check his podcast as well. But before we dive into anything else, so Rajiv, you're an artist, di ba? So,
Yes, correct.
what art forms do you mainly focus on?
I mainly focus on abstract recently. I've dabbled with basic drawing foundations, but it's hard to transcribe. Uh, Mahirap i-transcribe yung mga gusto kong sabihin. Kaya
Mm,
nag-abstract na lang ako.
ayos yun ah. Pero, so, talagang art, as in painting.
Yeah, I actually, if everybody's viewing me, the painting here behind me is actually mine.
Oh,
That's
naalala
one
ko
of
yan.
my secret.
Yeah,
Yeah.
napakita
This
mo yan sa
is
isa sa mga
the
IG live mo. Nakita ko
uh
yan. Naalala ko
this
yan.
is one of my signature twisted perspective, and I tried to do a mandala. This was commissioned, and sadly the commission got pushed back. So it came back to me. So yeah.
Memorable pa rin naman. Tumatak sa'yo.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Nag-ano ka rin? I think you're also into music.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Kari-release ko lang yung first music ko na kinompose namin sa college. So naka-release
Mm.
'yon. It's on YouTube. It's on the Rajiv Show. You guys can
Yun.
find it on the Rajiv Show. So yeah.
Ayun, guys, feel free to check out the Rajiv Show sa YouTube at pakinggan yung kinumpos ni Rajiv. So, Rajiv, since ngayon ka lang nasa podcast and meron na kaming idea on what you do, ano naman, who are you naman? So, kindly introduce yourself to our audiences naman.
So before I get started, I just want to say hi. Thank you so much for having me on the show. My name is Rajiv Doraiswamy. Don't if it's hard to pronounce my last
Mm.
name, just make it simple. 3 syllable. Dor, rice, and wami. Put that together and you have Doraiswamy.
Pwede
That's how
test
you pronounce it. Sige,
Dorai
sige. Subukan.
Doraiswamy?
Correct.
Okay, okay.
Correct. So yeah. So I'm Rajiv Doraiswamy, half Indian, half Filipino, currently
Mm.
residing in the Philippines, specifically in La Trinidad. And I'm a cool man. I'm a cool.
Mm.
You guys can approach me anytime. I'm a cool dude. So yeah.
All right. So interesting na bring up mo you're half Indian and Filipino. Gusto ko itanong kung ano ang kulturang mas na-adapt mo, you know, all throughout your life?
Unang Unang-una, I grew up here in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
So first language is English, but second language is Ilocano. So I'm not I don't have relatives from Ilocos. It's just that it's a neighboring language. So uh, it, I second language is Ilocano. So yeah, mostly Ilocano English based. That's the language that I use.
Mm. Sino ang Indian sa parents mo?
Father
Father.
side.
Oh, okay. So, okay, naglilid to sa magandang question. So, yung father mo, kasi since the podcast is all about mindset, this podcast, um, mayroong bang parang distinguishing factor sa mindset ng, you know, from your father as an Indian na parang madi-distinguish mo from, you know, the Filipino mindset, typical Filipino mindset?
Resilience. He has resilience. One of my father. Shout out to him if he's listening to this
Mm.
episode. Uh, he has resilience over everything that we've been through in life. I've spent my time with him during my lost years, and one thing that I've learned from my father is he's been resilient to everything that's been thrown at him. He's been resilient at that. So yeah.
So,
Um,
masabi mo na-adapt mo yung resiliency niya?
in a way, I have the annoying version of it, the junior version of it. Yeah,
Pero
yeah,
resilient siya in a way na yung mga, struggles of life, mga gano'n.
yeah, yeah.
That's awesome na kasi one thing about my dad, ano, parang hindi naman siya masamang tao. Hindi naman masamang tao yung tatay ko. Pero
Oh,
ang nakitaan ko sa kanya, he easily breaks down 'pag galit siya.
yeah,
Yun yung part ng tatay ko na nakita ko. Hindi ko nakita yung, yung on your dad, he was resilient. It's very good na nakita mo yun sa kanya. Pero
yeah.
for me on my part, hindi wala akong nakita ang ganong klaseng trait sa dad ko eh. So that's why I'm very interested to know, about your dad. And on the same note about resiliency, yung mother mo may pagkaganon din naman as a Filipino, ba?
As a Filipino, she's more on adaptation. She
Hmm.
she's more into. I think she's more introverted. No, she's extroverted, but she has some kind of introvertedness characteristic sometimes. When we are on personal level, hindi ko
Hmm.
matagalog yun.
Okay lang, okay lang. Eto next question, how has both of your parents, affected yung mindset mo so far? Like from the beginning na susceptible ka sa ano ba yun, nung bata ka, nung teenager ka, up till now?
My mother's kindness and warmth, I adapted that when I was with her when I was growing up here. Nung pumunta ako sa India, I used that as my source of communication, verbal communication towards my classmates, and it worked to a degree. And my father, his resiliency is one thing that he told me at times I have that kind of adaptive mentality towards things that I want. Uh, when I want something, I'm resilient enough to go and demand for it. And
Hmm.
even though it becomes irritating, my father knows that if I want it, I really go get it. That's one thing that my father told me before that still sticks to my mind.
Maganda yun na alam mo yung gusto mo and you're able to, stick to it at ipaglaban talaga yung gusto mo. Kasi I think that's a hard
Yeah,
thing most I don't think especially, hindi naman yata especially Filipinos. I think pati naman sa kultura ng ibang, country, may mga taong
yeah.
hindi rin
Oh,
kaya i-voice out yung gusto nila. Pero
yeah.
parang medyo potent siya sa Pinoy na hindi masabi yung gusto, nagpaparaya na lang lagi, mga gano'n.
Oh,
Parang bida yung Pinoy sa gano'n, nagpaparaya lagi. Pero
yeah.
anong masabi mo sa tao na meron siyang gusto na gustong-gusto talaga niya, pero ang tagal-tagal niya ng nagpaparaya. I think kasi may times na okay 'yun, pero may times na sobra na and you're sacrificing your own happiness and purpose and meaning ng buhay mo para dun. So, ano masabi mo
Yeah.
sa ganong klase ng tao?
Meron tong quote ni Michael Jordan. And nasa Last Dance napanood ko 'to.
Hmm.
Kung nakita niyo yung Last Dance documentary, meron yung tinanong ng coach ata or owner, tinanong niya kung may headache ka tapos, 9 out of 10, uh, 9 out of 10 of these medicines would heal you or kill you. So, sabi ni Michael Jordan, it depends on how fucking bad the headache
Hmm.
is.
Oo.
So, yun, talagang kung gusto mo talaga, you guys gotta go for it. Ride or die. That's one thing about life. But I'm saying this in terms of doing things that you want to do. Because probably some people will take it out of context. Yeah, Rajiv said this or that. No, what I'm trying to say is that if you really want something that is tangible, parang something that you can hold on to, a girlfriend that you really like, if you think it's worth losing that friendship with that girlfriend, then by all means admit your feelings because who- like I said, ride or die. If
Mm.
if you're not if you're not really missing if you're missing out on the opportunity later in life, 90 years, 100 years, you're gonna say, oh, I missed a shot, I should have at least tried. That's what I've done with my crushes when I was in college. I liked them, I admitted to them, didn't work out, so on to the next. I didn't mean chick boy, but on to the next. And luckily, I got my girl after college. So yeah, I was also resilient in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, dun sa pagiging chick boy, hindi I think there's a difference naman between, knowing who you want, going for it, being rejected, and then moving on, not dwelling.
There's a difference
Oo.
also
Oo.
between desperate and desperation.
Oo. Oo, totoo. Pero
Yeah.
going back sa yung alam mo yung gusto mo, I think ano, so lately lang ako na-open up sa concept ng values sa buhay, 'di ba? Core values, dati naririnig ko lang sa mga company, core values, values, ano ba yun? Parang ang cheesy lang pakinggan. Pero
Oh,
bringing it to this conversation, yung alam mo yung gusto mo, pero may mga bagay ka na hindi ka willing gawin para maabot yun. Alam mo yun? Na hindi ka willing
oh,
magnakaw, hindi ka willing magano dahil against yun sa values mo. So,
oh,
dun dadating sa buhay ng tao na importante nga na may values ka sa buhay, 'di ba? So, yung sinabi
yeah,
mo, kung may gusto kang ma-achieve sa career mo, pero
yeah,
nakakita ka ng opportunity, pero it involves doing something na or mabe-break niya yung value mo, yung values mo.
yeah, yeah,
You're gonna try to pursue a different way. Pero
yeah.
hindi
A
nasira
different
yung
plan.
pero hindi nasira yung desire mo on pursuing that.
Yeah,
Naghanap ka lang ng ibang way.
yeah.
Ba kasi
Smart way.
yung iba 'di ba, alam nila yung gusto nila, medyo nagiging controlling sila
Yeah.
ng tao.
Manipulative.
Yeah, manipulative. So buti nang na-bring up mo yun and nang ma-bring up din yung values kasi I think that's really important na ngayon ko lang nare-realize. Speaking of
Yeah,
values, ikaw Rajiv, what are your personal values in life na yun talaga yung alam mo yun, yung 'pag na-break yung on this example, may chine-chase kang goal. Ano yung mga
yeah.
hindi ka willing ma-break para ma-achieve yung goal mo na values? Ano yung mga hindi ka willing i-break na values?
In life, there's uh in life philosophy. One thing I stick by is it's an additional philosophy to a metaphor. I think, which is called think outside the box, think inside the box, and be the box. I specify on the concept of being the box and being in a situation, being the situation, and understanding it in various angles. That is one of my motto in life. That's one of my core values. In terms of living life, I don't have a yung tape na ginagamit nila sa crime scene to cover up yung limit. Wala talaga akong ganun. I
Hmm.
don't have any limit as long as uh, uh for me the only one core value that I carry in life is that I won't cheat on my wife.
Hmm.
And loyalty. That's the only thing that I've set out in life. Aside from that, there's nothing else that I wouldn't do as long as I do it safely and I don't hurt people in the process. But sadly, sometimes the most disappointing thing is someone will always be disappointed. It's either me or either
Oo.
people around me. So I can't put a limit to that. So yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, yeah, you did. Oo, pero maganda yung point mo, yung values mo simple lang, which yung yung mga values talaga or yung pinapahalagahan mo sa buhay, hindi naman niya kailangan maging marami, eh.
Oh,
Actually, tingin ko
oh,
kung the more mas marami siya, mas magulo yung buhay mo kasi ang dami-dami-dami
yes,
mong, 'di
yes,
ba?
yeah,
When in reality kung meron ka lang siguro 3 or kahit ilan man 'yan, na yun sinusundan mo yung values mo na yun, parang hindi ka mapapariwara in that way,
oh,
'di ba?
true, true.
So, ako kasi dati nung unang narinig ko yung concept ng core values, ano ba core values ko? So sabi nitong speaker na 'to, lista ko raw 30, tapos 20 out of 20 of this bullshit daw 'to. And then
Oh my,
yung 30 na yun, mana-narrow down siya into 10. Yung 10 na yun,
Then
ano
to
ulit?
3.
Oo, to 3. Magan
Oo.
magandang practice siya kung gusto mong, alam mo yun, i-narrow down ano lang yung at least 3 or kahit nga isa lang na talagang pinakamahalaga sa buhay mo eh.
Oo.
Pero yung mga 10 yung sinusunod mo. Ewan ko.
Oo.
That's when it becomes cheesy para sa akin.
Parang namimili ka na parang kumakain ka na sa restaurant, spicy, non-spicy. I'll add a little bit of kimchi, mga gano'n.
Uy, si ganito, may core value siyang 11. Gaya ko nga.
Oo nga eh.
Mukhang astig yun gaya ko.
Oo nga eh. Puwede bang mailagay sa t-shirt?
Pero yung core values, importante siya pero hindi niya kailangan maging komplikado. Which also
Oo.
anything in life. Hindi naman sobrang kailangan komplikado ng buhay.
Someone once told me this very famous line that life is simple. I just forgot who, but I had a conversation with someone because at that time I was struggling and I don't know
Mm.
what I was struggling with. I think I was in India or I was here, but someone said that life is simple. You just live it. You just live it to your own terms. So yeah, kind of stuck to me. I'm thinking about it. Yeah,
Pero yung mga ganong klaseng parang sayings, ano it's cliche pero there's a reason kung bakit cliche sila. Di ba?
yeah,
Talaga
yeah.
naman life is
True.
simple. And talagang magsisink in lang sa'yo yun pag, alam mo yun, na-experience mo na nga kung gaano kasimple lang talaga buhay, ikaw lang nagpapa-complicate
Oh, yeah.
na,
Be the box. It goes
oo.
back to the motto. Being the
Gusto ko yun kasi on being the box, kasi I'm big on empathy. Dun
yeah,
sa ginawa mong concept or sa in-explain mo, you're being the box, in-experience mo, inaalam mo. Parang in a way, you're expanding your perspective, 'di ba? Hindi
yeah,
lang you're
yeah,
outside tapos hinuhusgahan mo yung box.
yeah,
Kasi 'di ba, the old saying is think outside the box. Pero ikaw, you're saying be the box. Ano
oh,
yun? Idanas mo na ano ba yung nararanasan ng box na 'to, inside and
yeah,
out.
yeah,
And I think it really translates to empathy and compassion para sa akin. Yun yung take ko
yeah,
dun. And I'm really
yeah,
huge on that. Kasi
yeah,
I never want to judge anyone. Ano mo yun? Kahit yung mga may mga taong complain,
yeah,
tinatry ko pa rin na intindihin. Hindi ko alam yung pinagdadaanan nila kung bakit sila mga reklamador. Baka there's
yeah,
more to it than kung ano yung nakikita ko sa pinapost nila sa social media. So, although sometimes, totoo, may mga taong gusto lang magreklamo, pero I still try to look past that. Yun nga, be the box. Di ba?
yeah, yeah. True.
So, magandang philosophy yun. Saan mo unang narinig yun?
I just added that actually. I heard the term think outside the box, think inside the box. And that's what I when I heard those two, and then I realized why not be the situation? Because when
Be
you
the
do that,
box.
it's more like an internal i- you combine the concept of being an internal thinker and an external
Mm.
communicator. It's like you combine those two things. It's putting two things together and knowing a situation. If I put this as an example, let's say two people fought and you were in that situation, you were in middle of the situation, you would understand one person, communicate with them and communicate and understand who was right and who was wrong. And to a
Mm.
certain degree you can resolve it, or if it's not none of your business, then you don't resolve it. But still, you know both ends. It connects with empathy. You know both
Ah,
ends so that you know whose truths is much more agreeable, and that's where you make your decisions. So yeah.
mm. Naalala ko yung narinig ko lately meron akong pinapakinggan speaker si Ed Milet. Ang sabi niya, in a situation, there's always two versions of the truth, and in the middle of that is the actual truth.
Yeah, true,
So, yun.
true.
So by
But the
being,
sad
yeah,
reality, to add to that, the sad reality is, I think you know this quote. Sad reality is truth before truth it wakes up, the lie has spread across the world alone.
Oo.
That's one thing I always want to connect with that. Before truth is waking up, the lie has already crossed the world 3 times.
Mm.
Yeah.
Kaya para sa'kin sobrang importante ng self-awareness, eh, kasi you are able to internalize kung ano man yung version ng story mo. Alam mo yun, hindi siya gaslighting pero talagang you just want to know kung ano yung totoo talaga na baka ako yung problem, mga gano'n. In a way, ano, eh,
Yeah.
hindi naman siya gaslighting, pero it's always important, to be able to, yun nga, be the box. Self-awareness, being the box is self-awareness. Na tingin mo hindi yung story mo yung tama. So, ano ba yung tama talaga? You're able to question, your own story para mag-conclude sa kung ano talaga yung tama. Parang ano, it's not about who's right, but what's right.
One thing I want to add when you said the word question is sometimes questions are the hardest things in planning. Some people ask the right questions and the wrong questions and they don't know the difference. It's about understanding what it is that you want from the question.
Mm.
I wanted to connect that because sometimes nobody takes it into context that when someone fights and then you ask what's wrong, sometimes you may come out as an asshole. But
Ah.
then, yeah, sometimes you may come out. So the way you approach things is just all about how you question, how you know the person, what's the business related to the question, what business do you have related to the question. Yung mga ganun, no, questioning is one of the most things that is the toughest and the hardest things to get in this world is coming up with the right questions.
Oo,
And
oo.
nobody has the right question because everybody's got their own truths, and you don't want to mess with their truths if it's not your.
Yeah, I think yung to your part, yung pagka-question, naalala ko yung, alam mo yung kanta ni Neo, yung, nalimutan ko kung anong kanta yun, eh, pero sa lyrics niya, ang nakalagay dun, asking questions like you already know. 'Di ba?
Ah,
'Di ba? Nalimutan ko ng kanta yun, eh, pero yun yung exact
Miss
lyrics.
Independent ate. Miss Independent. I listened to some music.
Oo yata, pero yun nga, yung to your point, asking questions like you already know, that's yun nga, an example, yung sinabi mo, it comes off like you're being an asshole kasi yung
Yeah,
questions na tinatanong mo, accusations.
yeah. Sometimes it's abusive, and I don't know if that's a word, but it's abusive, abusive. Sometimes they make it the wrong intention. And first of all, sometimes those questions is that does it relate to you? That
Mm,
is the one question you have to ask yourself, especially when you're asking questions. Does it relate to you? If it does, then good. If it doesn't, then good. At least
yeah.
you know the difference.
And I think questions are very important, eh. Kasi when you ask, even with yourself, when you ask yourself the right questions, the right thoughts pop up.
Yeah.
And I think questions na nanggagaling from curiosity ang pinakamagandang question. Kasi
Yes.
alam mo yun, kasi you're interested in finding out what is compared to finding out if kung yun nasa isip mo, yun nga ba yun?
Yes. Yes.
So yun yung pinagkaiba nila. Kaya ngayon, nare-realize ko na yung power ng questions. Kasi if you're trying to make someone realize their mistake, it's one thing na ikaw ang nagsabi sa kanya. Pero 'pag siya mismo ang naka-realize, it's everything to that person. And it takes asking the right question in the right way na
Yeah.
'pag may ginawa silang mali, "Ba't mo ginawa 'to? Ba't mo ginawa 'yan?" That is the wrong question. Pero
Yeah.
if you said it in a way na, "Anong nangyari? Okey ka lang ba? Anong nangyari?
Yeah.
Anong nangyari compared dun sa ba't ganito nangyari?" 'Di ba?
Yeah.
Very simple lang
Different.
yung change niya pero ang
Different.
laki
Yeah.
ng pinagkaiba.
Context. Yeah. The context changes. Yeah.
And by using that type of questioning, yung taong tinatanong mo, naka-lower yung defense niya and open siya sagutin yung tanong mo
Yeah.
ng buong puso
True.
niya, 'di ba?
True.
So, Ayun eh, kasi sobrang important ng question sa buhay. Kasi yung nakikinig ako sa ano eh, sa mga scientists, mga psychologists, and isa sa mga nabe-bring up nila is yung brain kasi ng tao, question answering machine 'yan. Every time may babato kang tanong diyan, may babato yang sagot sa'yo. So,
Yeah,
yung sagot na makukuha mo depende sa kung paano yung tinanong mo at kung ano yung tinanong mo. So,
yeah,
na-appreciate ko na na-bring up mo yung topic about questions kasi
yeah,
napaka-impactful nun.
yeah. That's what I do. I always bring out tiny
Ah,
details. I'm very attentive to
uh,
details.
yeah, commend you for that, man.
Cheers, cheers.
So, that's kaya pala ano, your podcast has been ano, going on for how many months or years na?
Same. It's the same. It's gonna have its birthday, I think, by November. I know. It's already had its birthday already. Its second birthday, pod anniversary. So yeah.
Nice, nice, nice.
Basically, the show and the podcast is different. It's like I wanna venture out into different fields. I ventured out into music one recently, and then arts. I have a different specific field for arts, but I want to I want to exhibit the fact that I am me in
Mm.
this whole story. I am me, and it sounds selfish, but I want to take as much as life, take as much of what life can give. Medyo malalim na yan isip,
Oo.
pero
Pero
gusto ko
yeah.
talagang kunin ang mga experiences ng life kasi artist ako tapos musikero ako. So, I want to mix those worlds. Kanina lang, I was just experimenting with one of my artworks, and uh, by the looks of it, I'll send you a photo of it. It looks like
Mm.
an album. It's I think I shared the story, but I don't think I added you at that time. But I did have a photo of this image that I did, and it's black. It's a complete black, but the center is is added with some extra digital. I did it digital, so the art in the center is like a light. It's the end of the tunnel, and when you look at it, parang pwede mo nang gawing album,
Mm.
music album,
Cover,
cover
album ko.
album.
Tignan ko yan mamaya.
I'll send, I'll send you once I put an idea to it. Pero may concept ako eh.
Anong kon?
Yun, like putting that in the center tapos because there's an album cover that I know that the Beatles have. I think it's the white, pero yung sa akin black yung.
Hmm. Pero ikaw as a creative, I think sobrang interesting ng mga creatives tulad mo. Kasi for people like me, ano eh, hindi naman sa wala akong talent sa art, baka hindi ko lang tina-try, pero hindi wala dun yung ano ko, yung curiosity ko, hindi dun nagle-lead. Pero para sa'yo,
Yeah,
you have a unique way of expressing yourself as a creative compared sa tao na words lang yung nagagamit. And dun,
yeah.
dun ako natutuwa sa pagiging creative. And as a creative, ikaw, so since this podcast is about mindset, parang what art have you done or you're planning to do that best resembles your mindset today? Is it the one behind you?
Abstract. I have a lot of ideas with abstract. Now, in my head, I want to transcribe a story of a child looking up into the abstract world,
Mm.
and I haven't done it yet, but I have the concept in mind, like a black shadow of a kid holding a teddy bear or something. But I'm not specific on details because I'm not really good at it. But I have the idea of outlining that, and then as he looks away, looking out into the world, is all the twisted stuff that I do, the twisted perspective style that I put mixed with some line art. So that's a piece that I'm thinking about. I think I might do that.
Yeah, I'm expecting that, bro. So you let your art speak for you.
It's just hard for abstract art to get noticed. Some people, when they see abstract, this guy is onto something
Yeah, so I think
because abstract. Looking at Jackson Pollock,
uh
they don't. Some people say that some of his art style comes from a different style technique, and then some are selling artworks that is not his. And art world is so complicated.
uh
And it's hard to navigate life there. So yeah,
yeah, in some way buti na lang di ako creative. Joke lang.
yeah. In a way, yeah,
Uh,
you're right
pero
because you don't have to struggle with that pain.
every industry has a version of that naman eh, di ba?
Yeah.
As a version of the struggles. Pero going back, so thank you for being on this episode, joining me. And isa sa mga gusto kong itanong sa'yo as a person, as a creative, as a person, as you, today, what's the biggest shift in your mindset so far na masasabi mong, I used to think this way, I think this way now, and I'm proud of it? Kasi may mga ganong realizations ako before na talagang ay, yung gano'ng klaseng way of thinking ko napaka-twisted nun or ayokong maulit o bumalik yung mindset ko sa gano'ng klaseng type ng mindset. And ano yung gano'n para sa'yo, if any?
Uh, my mindset in terms of that, that's a really good question. A mindset that I had. I used to complain a lot,
Hmm.
but that's not really major. I don't have a specific. It's all minor.
Pero
What I
mine
had to learn was empathy and patience.
okey.
Patience is one of the things. I meant to say that I've already mastered it in a way.
Hmm.
It sounds arrogant, but back then when I was young, patience was not my strongest suit as a young kid.
Okey.
But yeah,
So ano, eh, the way you said it, 'di ba, you think it sounds arrogant pero para sa'yo ano, eh, results speak for themselves. Results ang magsasabi kung talagang gano'n na nga or hindi. So,
yeah.
ano yung parang one deciding moment para sa'yo na nasabi mo talagang you have improved your patience or you're now a patient man?
None because the patience came it came with the discipline that I had, drive and discipline that I've had with when it comes to my art. One thing that kept me together and still keeps me together is my art.
Hmm,
And I can attest to the journey that I've had with my art is that now that I'm experimenting to I used to be a comic book artist, but
nice.
I cannot perfect the human structure and the human body, and I'm not good in creating environments. I don't have that skill, but I had to learn to be patient. One thing I used to get pissed off, and I used to flip my drawing books, but then I come back to it after few hours, few days. I come back to the same circle. It's like a circle. It
Hmm,
always keeps going like that. So once I flip the books again, I go back. But the consistency and that patience kept going. I kept going until, like I said, I mastered it. It sounds arrogant, but
yeah.
yeah, I
Then,
kind of mastered it through that system learning.
yeah, you say na it sounds arrogant pero I think that's one thing na kailangan ngang ma-master ng mga Pinoy na being able to be confident, in what you say about yourself. Kasi yun
Yeah,
medyo kulang yan, eh. May in some way may downside yung pagiging sobrang humble. Pero hindi mo naman nasabi in a way na arrogante ka. Para sa'kin,
yeah.
Para sa listeners ba, share niyo kung thoughts niyo kung mukha bang arrogante si Rajiv. Pero para sa'kin hindi, honestly
Yeah.
hindi. Pero anyway man, thanks for answering that question. And before we end this episode, is for anyone that wants to follow you, your personal or your podcast, saan mo sila pwedeng i-refer?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. Guys, check out the Rajiv shows on Facebook, TikTok. Everywhere. Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, IG, where else? Twitter, any of those platforms.
Mm.
Find me on any of those platforms. You want to collab, you want to share stories, or just have a drink with me, that would be nice. Because I'm missing human contact. I'm here stuck at home and I'm missing human contact. So yeah, just reach out to any of my social media platforms. And if you like motivational stuff, I got motivational stuff on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. And if you don't have any of that stuff and you're just a YouTuber, uh, my content is on YouTube. All my the episode that I did with my friend here is also it's going to be on YouTube, and yeah, YouTube is there. So yeah, my music, everything is everywhere. So yeah,
All right, man. Thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing your time with us and joining us today. And for the listeners, thank you sa lahat na nakinig up to this point, and hopefully you took some big takeaways. And para sa akin is yung being the box and yung thing about questions. So talagang nag-sink in sa akin yun. So thanks for sharing your thoughts, Rajiv. And thank you again for the listeners for supporting the podcast. And till the next episode.